It's Thursday, November 6th, 2014. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geeknights. I'm back from Australia, and we're back from hiatus. Tonight, we're talking about the election that you probably didn't vote in.
Let's do this.
Oh my gosh, I'm back. We've missed a lot of Geek Nights. I was feeling pretty good yesterday. I landed on Tuesday night. I went to work on Wednesday, just like a boss. And today, I think I have a PAX box.
Oh, why did you call me over here if you had a PAX box?
Just don't touch me. It feels like one of those sinusy kind of things, so just stay away from me.
Great.
I feel pretty good. Just, the usual sore throat. I'm going to Mucinex it up and get a good night's sleep.
Great.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently there is no term limit.
No term limits.
I
Meaning
don't-
Cuomo's going to keep running until
I don't
he
know.
dies.
I've never heard of anyone being governor for more than 8 years. Anyway,
How many governors can you name?
quite a few.
Huh? All right. So, yeah, anyway, it's the lounge. It's Thursday.
No,
on
it's
Geek
not the
Nights.
lounge. This is actually a Monday, Wednesday week. This is a special.
This is wow, we haven't done a
It is
special in a
not-
long time.
This is not a lounge. Get your lounge out of my face.
It's only the lounge if it's a normal episode on a Thursday then.
It's never the lounge. I'll find an excuse then too, but I found an excuse today was easier.
For those of you who found out about Geek Nights because of PAX Australia, which I seem to believe is a lot of people based on the number of Twitter followers I got and the surprising number of emails I got from people who had questions about the panel. Yeah, this is Geek Nights, and we'll talk about PAX on Tuesday next week. Because that's gaming night. Tonight's Thursday, so we're talking about whatever, my butt.
Stuff that Australians could care absolutely nothing about because
So-
they're on the other side of the world, and this is pretty much a New York issue.
So last year...
But it's okay to do a New York issue. It legitimizes my registration of the geeknights.nyc domain.
That, in fact, is true. So last year, Scott and I went to PAX Australia, but it was summer here, and we went in Australia's winter, meaning we lost 2 weeks of summer.
It sucked.
This year, I went in the fall, and it was summer there, so I got bonus summer, thus canceling that out.
That would have been amazing.
And my impressions on summer Australia are such. To keep it
Tropical
relatively
awesomeness.
brief, not talking about PAX at all. One, Sydney is way different from Melbourne and a lot like New York. However, imagine if New York had a beach that was 100 times better than the beach at Wildwood and was literally 20 minutes via cheap mass transit from Midtown.
So you mean Rockaway?
Rockaway is far more than 20 minutes away from Midtown.
Take the A
and
train,
not 100 times
C train.
better than Wildwood's
It's
beach.
not 100 times better than Wildwood, but you can get there really quickly. on
Have
the
you
train.
ever taken the subway there?
No, I just biked
It takes
there.
an hour.
From Midtown?
Yeah.
What?
In fact, it takes more than an hour from Midtown.
That makes no sense.
Look at that train. Look at what. So there's a ferry that just stops.
Biking is faster than that.
Exactly. So yeah, there's a ferry. There are people who.
I thought you were going to say, imagine if right where the Intrepid is the amazing beach, and you just walk there from Midtown.
Yeah, so you get on a ferry, and the beach is literally 20 minutes away.
It's still
and
a
that
little
beach-
far. It's not walk there like.
No, you
know.
get on a ferry that costs like $7.
That's fine.
Round trip. Like it was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Two, in Wildwood, like when we go swimming, like when we go to the ocean, even in Florida or whatever, like you can dive onto the wave, you can ride the wave, jump over the wave, jump into the wave. And you gotta, like, depending on the wave, like you gotta do a different thing. But it doesn't really matter because if you miss, it's just like, oh, wave in the balls or wave in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the waves, just the default waves at Manly Beach were like 8 feet.
They're real surfing waves like in the movies.
Yeah, so I'm swimming out there. And what lifeguards give, like, they'll try to save you, I guess, but they give zero fucks how far out you swim.
No, it's
So
Australia.
I swam way out there. I basically went, there was a row of people who weren't on surfboards that were the furthest down. I was one group back from them because I'm not a pro swimmer.
That's a good idea. That's like how I'm going to be second in line to get cyborg implants.
Yep. So the
Same
waves
deal.
are coming, and it's like 8-foot wave, which is already like 5 feet higher than like the peak we get in Wildwood. So I missed reading one once, and it threw me head over heels like 20 or 30 yards back up the beach. Like it was amazing swimming. And then a 12-footer
I
came.
got my ass kicked. It was awesome.
Yeah. So then a 12-footer came, and yeah, that was an awesome
You
beach.
remember was out there with a ruler. That's why it got picked up and thrown.
Yeah.
He started measuring each wave.
But So in Wildwood, like a lot of people
That's
just kind of
also why the
stand there.
lifeguards didn't save him.
And the waves hit him. So there, like you see everyone in a row does the exact same thing at the exact same time. Like suddenly a whole line of people just goes boop under the water or boop up into the air. Like everyone can read the waves. It was super fun. It's called Manly Beach. Do you know why it's called Manly Beach?
Because you have to be manly to survive.
Actually, kinda. So it's not like Batman and Batman Avenue. So I assumed Manly Beach was named after like Lord Manly or something dumb like that. No.
That would be my second guess.
So the first white dude that landed there, the natives were particularly manly to him, so he called it Manly.
Yeah.
In honor of those manly natives. And I was climbing.
And that gay explorer.
And I was climbing.
The awesomest explorer of all time.
I think they like stabbed him with a spear, and he was like, "It's okay, you guys are awesome." And
this
he,
guy,
like,
okay, this guy is the most amazing explorer I've ever heard of. He's my hero.
Yeah, Australia's fucking. So this is the most Australian thing.
Knifey spoony expert.
Beyond even Manly Beach is the two monuments at Manly Beach. The first monument is a plaque that commemorates
just
the
Atlas.
first time white people stood there.
Great.
And the second one, I was climbing on these cliffs around like the tidal basin, like the tidal pools. I was like climbing on these cliffs, and the tide was like out, so it was pretty safe. I figured it was
Wouldn't
fine.
it be more safe if the tide was in? Because then you'd land in water if you fell, as opposed to jagged
No,
rocks.
if you land in that water, the water is only like a foot deep over the rocks, and it's super roiling. Roiling is the word I would use. Meaning, you know the phrase...
It's not really going to help you either way if you fall.
You know the phrase, dashed upon the rocks to death? That is what would happen if you're in that water
So
when
you'd
the tide
rather
was
just
up.
land on rocks and not be continuously dashed
No, because I'll just
after landing
climb
on...
down. I wasn't going to fall. So I'm climbing around, and I see this big
Oh, I
boulder.
see. I saw you. If you're thinking about the situation where you climb down and not the
Yeah,
situation
if I have
where
trouble, I was just going to climb
if you fall to your
down.
death.
And if I fell, like, fuck it. But what I didn't want to be in the situation of is I'm climbing, I get into trouble, and now the tide's in, and I can't climb down. So I'm out there, and I see a rock, like a big rock, just kind of hanging out, like kind of on the beach in the other rocks, and there's a plaque on it. So I kind of like carefully make my way over there with a little bit of swimming and get to this rock. You know what the plaque basically says?
What?
In 1912, this giant-ass rock washed up on the beach after a crazy storm. And to commemorate this, plaque. So they have a plaque commemorating the day in 1912 that a particularly big rock washed up on the beach.
In
And they put-
1912, how exciting do you think things were in Sydney? Really? I mean, that big rock just showing up out of nowhere was probably like the biggest news they had in 2 months. It was probably like everyone was probably stopping to check. Like, hey, did you see that rock that showed up? Holy shit!
So-
that motherfucker is big.
So the other thing, I was hanging around, doing my thing, and I went biking. I rented some shitto semi-mountain bike, and I biked like all around the Yarra River in Melbourne and all my Australia stuff. I passed by an apartment rental place, and I was checking out like apartments for rent. The rents were pretty reasonable. Then I remembered from last year that rents in Australia are written down per week.
Can you actually rent it for 1 week?
No. It's just that's how they denote rent. It's per week, not per month.
Do you have to pay it every week?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And all that meant was that the rents were New York rents as opposed to pretty reasonable rents.
It's a major city. It has New York rents.
Yep.
However, if it was actually 25% of the New York rent price, it would be a very crowded city with people trying to live there.
So Australia might be my backup plan if I ever have to leave the country, simply for the fact that
they're not going to let you in. It's very hard to get a visa.
I
and whatnot.
am confident I could get myself Australian citizenship or naturalization or a green card or visa or whatever. I am super confident I can make that happen.
Sure. Good luck.
No, just the industry I work in by day is that kind of industry.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of people I know live there or live in Singapore, and basically because they work in that industry, they can just live there forever and work there, and like the government's totally okay with it. So yeah, Australia was super awesome. The sun doesn't fucking fuck around down there.
You're pretty close to that hole in the ozone layer.
And their sunscreen is way better than our sunscreen.
I'm sure it is.
Apparently, it's much more tightly regulated, and they use that one chemical that we're not allowed to use.
Yep.
Yeah, I brought back a shit ton of that sunscreen.
Oh, they let you?
Well, no one asked.
Customs didn't find it?
Customs didn't even look at me.
There you go.
Yeah.
White privilege. Smuggling.
Yeah.
Little Han Solo over here.
Well, I declared $40 of stuff that I brought back over here. And remember, Australia doesn't care what you bring out of the country.
Mm-hmm.
The U.S. just cares what you bring in.
Because it's an island. They don't want you bringing in shit.
Though
that's,
Australia does have exit immigration, which the U.S. does not have.
Mm-hmm.
So to leave Australia, you got to go through immigration.
Mm-hmm.
And that line was longer than any line I've ever stood in to get into any country.
We didn't have to go through a crazy line we left the last time.
Yeah, you know why? Because some Australian little fucking teenager went and joined ISIS. And Australia is panicking about it. So they're super scrutinizing anyone who's leaving the country to make sure they're not intending to go to Turkey, which is apparently the way you go if you want to then go fight for ISIS.
So shouldn't they just check the people with plane tickets to Turkey?
Yeah, but that holds up the line, I guess.
How was your passport with your turkey stamps? Did that help you out?
Yeah, so people there, we were talking about passports, because I ran into Brian Hicks and all these old people I haven't seen in forever, and he was
Since September.
yeah, he's what the fuck are you going to Turkey all the time for?
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Yeah. So yeah, it was
It's
super fun
gobble
time.
season pretty soon over here.
Yeah, it is.
I'm getting all up in that.
And excited about this. I'm feeling some turkey. I want to make some fucking stuffing. Oh my gosh.
Top.
Yeah, no. No.
You said yeah.
You know what
I could just buy some and make it.
You
when I
know
get
what
home.
said yeah? The reptile brain. The same part of your brain that when you're hungry smells McDonald's and says, eat some of that shit.
You know what? Maybe I'll just buy some stovetop on the way home and then cook it.
Yeah, you know what? Part of your brain is going to really, really enjoy that. And meanwhile, the rest of your brain is going to be getting ready to eject.
We used to eat that shit so much.
I know we did.
It's so
And we
good.
even made it with margarine,
You know
not
what?
butter.
You know what? Tonight, I'll just go and get that and a tub of frosting. That'll be dinner.
Tub of frosting. If you want to go full on, the entree has to be a Red Baron 4-cheese pizza.
I don't know if I can find one of those.
also known as we brought. So
I could do macaroni and ketchup.
I think Scott and I both burned our mouths severely
10
times,
A lot
and
of times.
also being the number of times we ate the Red Baron 4-cheese pizza.
Yes.
Those were good times.
Mm-hmm.
That really hurt. I remember like not being able to taste
Well, it was
things.
mostly that microwave's fault.
I'd
It
argue
wasn't
that
the Red Baron's fault. He's a good guy.
I think the Red
No, he
Baron,
wasn't.
that pizza, well, it depends on what side you're on. Remember, when I was in Turkey last, I saw World War I and all this stuff from the opposite perspective,
Mm-hmm.
where the good guys and the bad guys were reversed from the usual perspective you get in the West.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Red Baron was a good guy to some people.
Anyway,
So you got anything to talk about in the front bit?
I do. So I'm going to talk about some net running because you know whatevs. So the company that makes Netrunner is Fantasy Flight Games. They make
Yep.
a lot of games you might, just normal board games too, like Citadels. They publish that.
Oh, yeah.
And, they're a huge U.S. game company, publisher. So their World Championships are right now. But I'm not fucking going to Minnesota to play fucking Netrunner. That's insane.
What if you could have won?
I couldn't even win in Boston or Philadelphia, so what makes you think I'm going to win in Minnesota?
How many New Yorkers went there?
I know 2 New Yorkers who went there, but one of them won the Canadian National Championship, and the other one won the Boston Regionals, well, Cambridge, Massachusetts Regionals. So let's hope they win.
All right.
And they're playing to win.
I'll root.
And they're better than me. So anyway, so they're live streaming that shit. Fantasy Flight Games screws a lot of things up, but one thing they don't screw up is at least, live streaming for the World Championship. So you can watch it, twitch.tv/FFG live. And also, they realize Netrunner's the real game, and all the other games are sort of second fiddle at best. So if you want to see all those other games like X-Wing Miniatures, Game of Thrones card game, etc., you got to watch today, tomorrow, Friday, Saturday there's going to be some Netrunner. Sunday is nothing but Netrunner all day. No other game has a day dedicated to just itself.
I think Netrunner is becoming the football of tabletop.
It pretty much sort of is.
Yeah.
It's becoming a big deal. So you want to watch the Netrunner World Championships this Sunday, twitch.tv, FFG Live.
Oh, so not talking about PAX, but speaking of that and sport, because they're streaming a tabletop game, people keep saying esports, but I feel like it's just G sports, game sports, because I'm hoping this.
No,
is
it's sports and games. Esports are just sports because they involve physical athletic ability. Even though it's only the athletic ability of your hands, it's still athletic ability. Something like chess is not a sport; is just a game because there is no athletic ability required or tested by the game itself.
So poker is on ESPN 2 or
Sure,
3
you
or
could
whatever.
just right. So
But that's a game, not a sport.
exactly
Unless you had jungle poker.
jungle poker, poker boxing,
So you flip over a card, and whoever grabs the totem first gets that card.
poker boxing.
I would poker box.
Yeah. No, you wouldn't. Because probably the best people at poker boxing would probably be boxers
Yeah.
and not poker players. So you would just get KO'd.
No, you just got to get someone who's immune.
Someone like you stand up and then a professional boxer stands up. It's like, I fold.
You got to get the kind of person
I fold. It's all you. I'm all in. I fold.
who could hold out against Mike Tyson until his arms got tired.
Nobody.
A couple people were
Zero
able to.
people.
One or two people.
No one on earth.
I think Mike Tyson's got a TV show now, that cartoon.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
It's basically Scooby-Doo plus Mike Tyson plus Adult Swim.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm not watching that.
Oh, yeah. So with all that, I was doing one of the panels at PAX, and I talked about bad feedback and like bad heuristics in games, and I used Dotas and League of Legends, all those MOBAs as an example.
Yep.
In the US, when we shit all over MOBAs, like people get really mad.
I don't get really mad,
But they like there's a little bit of like, oh, boo.
people will defend, people love those games, and if they're one of the people who plays those games, they defend them to some extent.
In Australia, the people who came up to me after the panel play a lot of MOBAs and were like, wow, that explains why I am not the world champion at MOBAs. Playing MOBAs doesn't teach you MOBAs. How should I learn MOBAs? And I was like, just find someone who's good and get them to teach you. Is there any other way? No.
Read all the wikis and facts and practice like crazy.
Or write a wiki by reverse engineering the whole game.
Yeah, decompile the source code and figure out frame timings and whatnot.
Yep.
Just like a fighting game.
But anyway, things of the day. So when I was in PAX Aus, another thing is I brought up Five Nights at Freddy's. So I was talking about horror
My
games.
sister actually made a Let's Play of that
Oh,
for her work.
I started recording myself playing it, not like live streaming it. I'm not interested in, but no one's really done a teardown of like the mechanics. And I'm doing one of those kinds of videos. Like this game's jump
Well, how
scares
come you're not playing TIE Fighter?
because I just got back and actually
I played TIE Fighter. while
and
you were
I
away.
don't have a joystick yet.
If you play the 1994 version, you can use mouse and keyboard.
Why the fuck would you even?
It actually worked pretty well.
Yeah, that's not TIE Fighter. That's like
It worked.
that's trying to
Would you rather do that or no TIE Fighter at all?
no TIE Fighter.
No, I'll play it.
Yeah, Scott.
It's good.
No, it's not.
The Emperor is pleased with my performance.
Yeah, so you're playing. What about the Shadow guy?
I got a promotion from him.
Do you have a tattoo?
Not yet.
I'm
I'm working on it.
gonna live stream the shit out of some TIE Fighter. I have to get a joystick.
I thought you had one around here.
No,
I
I did. So I did, but that joystick I'm pretty sure doesn't actually work, and I haven't used it in a decade. So
I'll just take it.
I don't even know where it is. I might have thrown it away.
In one
Maybe
of
it's
these
in that blue suitcase.
One of these boxes.
I'm looking online. Actually, there were a bunch of joysticks for sale at PAX Aus, and they looked real nice, but
We're fortunate.
things are expensive in Australia.
Yeah.
Except Uniqlo stuff was cheap. So anyway, Five Nights at Freddy's, regardless of, I really like that game. It doesn't have a lot of replay value, but I think no one's done a game like that before.
It's no FTL.
No, totally different kinds of games. There's also that duck song on YouTube. That video that
Your
just
stupid duck song.
everyone bumps into it occasionally as a recommended video. It's one of the most watched videos ever on YouTube. That stupid song gets stuck in your head, waddle waddle, and someone mashed that up with Five Nights at Freddy's, and it is apt.
Okay.
The only thing more apt than that is an image that I just found that mashed up something old and amazing.
You found this?
I found this.
Where did you find that? Did you search for that on purpose?
I was looking for
Did
a
you
picture.
How could anyone have combined those two so remote things?
I was looking for pictures from Five Nights at Freddy's to make my panel, and I found this.
Oh my God.
So this is my alternate thing of the day.
It's incorrect. It should say it's Freddy time
Yep.
instead of it's me.
Well, so it's me is an inside joke for Five Nights at Freddy's. It's me. Basically, one of the things that the game does to kind of explain like how the game is horror. There's text, like there's a sign that says out of order, and whenever anything weird happens, that's like the unexplained and creepy catchphrase. So like if you look at that room when the game's like fucked up, the sign says it's me instead. Like, just that doesn't make any sense, and it's kind of unnerving. And then you hear a voice at one point that just whispers to you like, it's me. And once or twice, it's me just flashes on the screen for no reason.
Okay.
So it's one of those, like, there's a consistent, unnerving, and not really contextually explainable thing that happens, which is the kind of thing in proper horror that puts someone's brain ill at ease.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see something that your brain can't parse, like when you're laying in the room late at night and like you wake up and like a shadow's a certain way and you see something that your brain cannot parse and your brain gets into this mode of what is that and what does it mean before your smart brain wakes up a little bit and says, the curtain move, go back to bed.
It's a shirt on a chair.
Yep. But before the shirt on the chair part of the brain steps in, there's a tiny part of the brain, some old ancient part that says, whatever that is, I got to figure out if it's dangerous. So yeah. So that's my thing of the day.
All right.
Don't wear it out.
My thing of the day, there are pygmy seahorses. I like sea
What?
I like sea creatures.
Typing this into Google right now.
Pygmy seahorse is an excellent sea creature. It's a really tiny seahorse. Now, pygmy seahorses, I learned a lot about them from this video, and you're going to learn everything that I know about them from this video. They're really tiny. And the pygmy seahorse comes in two varieties, orange and purple. The orange ones, they basically, no matter which color they are, they basically live in some sort of sea plant for their whole lives. They just sort of, hang out on the plant. And they look just like the plant. Like they have little nurbles on them, just like the plant.
Look at those nurples.
All right. So the orange one lives in the orange plants, and the purple one lives in the purple plant. And they live their seahorse lives hanging out in that plant, and then they die their seahorse deaths living in that plant. So scientists were like, hey, how come you never see like a purple one in an orange plant, or orange one in a purple plant? Or it's like, do they just, and it's perfectly, maybe there's just two different genetic variations, and the orange ones are born in an orange plant, and so they live in it. And then the purple ones are born in a purple plant, so they live in that.
Or maybe like they get a pigment from like their diet. Like there's a lot of possible explanations.
Yes. So it was very difficult, but eventually they managed to snatch two orange ones and bring them back to like an aquarium lab place without them dying. So they did. And then, of course, you know how seahorses do, where the dude carries the babies and then squirts them out.
Yep.
Right? So they got the two orange ones make babies, and they put some of the babies with the orange plant and some with the purple plant to see if they would all be orange or if some of them would be purple.
Oh, and what happened? I'm skimming Wikipedia. I don't know the answer.
Watch the video.
Damn it. So, those are pretty awesome animals. Should we do a Thursday show on sea animals?
Rays are the best. The end.
I'm a fan of dolphins, different kinds of dolphins.
Yeah.
They're
I mean,
okay.
dolphins are all smart, but they're not that cool.
Whales are good too. Ooh.
Whales.
Ooh.
Whales sort of big and mystical, but it's no octopus.
Yeah. Well,
So-
octopus versus giant squid.
Giant squid is the king of the sea.
Octopus is more mischievous, in my opinion. Giant squid's a little more frightening and bitey, but I don't really know a lot about either of them.
20,000 Leagues kind of squid is the best. Little Kraken action.
In the meta moment, we are back and on our regular schedule. I've got a bit of a post-PAX Pox, I think. It started coming on today, but hopefully I will be good to continue doing shows. So on Tuesday, we will talk about PAX Aus, and I don't know, what should we talk about?
Some kind of game.
Have we even done a show on Pendante yet?
Have we done a show on TIE Fighter?
TIE Fighter, Pendante.
There's a lot of games to talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot of gaming news as well.
Mhm.
Lots of game. We could just do like game shows forever.
And next Thursday, I don't know what we're going to do, but maybe you should select a book club book.
So the next book club book,
Oh, great.
I have actually selected one,
Uh-oh.
and it is Watership Down. Why do you care? Why don't you want to read Watership Down? What's wrong with Watership Down? It's one of the most famous and beloved books in English literature.
Yeah, whatevs.
It's one of the more read books ever. It's extremely popular, and there's a pretty interesting story as to how and why the book was written.
I don't really care.
You don't care?
Not really.
You know anything about... What do you think Watership Down by Richard Adams is about?
Bunny War.
That's, yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
In my, so I was asking, like in Australia, I was like, hey, book club. I was asking a lot of people there because a lot of our newer listeners are there. Like people who don't, like they haven't listened to old episodes. They don't know what our fucking deal is yet. Like they're young and naive and don't realize what assholes we are. So I was asking them like, hey, what book should we do on the show? And and a lot of people said Prince of Nothing. You should read that book. That book's good.
People said that?
Yeah. Multiple people recommended it when I was like, oh, what's a good fantasy book like we could talk about on Geeknights? And they were like, so have you ever heard of R. Scott Bakker? And I
I'm
was
like,
like,
have you
I was
heard of
I was
R.
like,
Scott
and I
Bakker?
quote myself, I'm sorry, but I believe I have come before you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is
You
the
can just
book
call
club
me the
book.
darkness. I'd be like, do I know R. Scott Bakker? What do you see?
But a lot of nerds
What
I
do
know,
you see?
a lot of nerds, especially nerds who are like art nerds, they all read Watership Down when they were young.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I should read it.
Great.
It's also
Or Emily
really-
just told you to.
I have bunnies, and Emily really likes that book, and I've never read it. And I would like to watch the movie, but I should read the book first, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read the book, and I'm going to watch the movie.
Whatever.
Otherwise, PAX South is coming up. Hopefully, we'll be doing 1 or 2 or 3 panels at it. And then right after that is PAX East. Badges go on sale soon. So watch out for that. And then not long after that is PAX Prime. And in between the two is Kineticon.
There's
Panels
also a MagFest that we're not going to.
Yeah, MagFest is awesome, though. So if you could not get...
I heard Rebecca Sugar's going to be at
Yeah.
MagFest.
So if you were unable to get badges or hotels to PAX South, or PAX South is too far away...
You should be at MagFest.
You should be at MagFest. MagFest is, in my opinion, the 3rd best gaming convention in the English-speaking world.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1 is PAX Prime. PAX Aus, as of this year, edged out both PAX East and MagFest, I think. But that's only because PAX Aus has a
But
real...
you spent all of PAX East doing video streaming, so I don't know if your evaluation can really be...
but I think we both agree that MagFest is more fun than PAX East.
Maybe.
PAX Aus it feels a lot like PAX Prime due to both internal factors and external factors, meaning there's food,
That's true.
there's places, it's nice
well,
to
now
walk
there is.
around.
There wasn't last year.
There wasn't last year. Last year, big top, glad I went, memories, but They had this big sign that's like PAX Aus 2014, now with less tent.
They
knows.
So good. So, they know it. They get all that shit right. That's the shit they never fuck up.
Yep, exactly.
Anyway.
So, yeah, the election happened. You probably didn't vote in it because young people, just don't fucking vote in midterms, and that's why shit's fucked.
People in the United States don't vote.
Yeah, so those of you who do not live in the United States, to explain this to you, every 4 years, we elect our president. That's the only time most of the people who vote, ever.
There are elections every single year on the same day.
Yep.
That's the first Tuesday of November is the election day. Even if it's not the president year, in all those 3 in-between years, there are also votes.
Now, every 4 or 6 or 8 years, there's always either a member of Congress on the House of Representatives or the Senate, or a governor or a gubernator, if you know what I'm referencing. Governor races.
Or mayors.
Yep.
Or
state legislatures.
There's all kinds of judges. There's
Judges who run unopposed
dog
always.
catchers.
So,
sheriffs in some
you know what?
places.
I don't need to explain this because apparently John Oliver just talked about this. So go watch the most recent John Oliver last week tonight, and he explains how almost all actual laws in the U.S. now are passed at the state level because our national politics is completely deadlocked and will be for another 2 years minimum. Probably another 12 years.
Maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. So this election happened, and the main reason I wanted to talk about this, one, didn't really want to do a show like the day after I got back from Australia, and 2, a bunch of our smart friends got tricked and voted the wrong way on a proposition.
Yeah, like when afterwards he explained it to them, they actually realized it wasn't a situation like they disagreed with us and they said yes and we said no. It was a situation where they said no, well, they said yes, we said no. And then when we explained it to them, they were like, oh shit, I actually wanted to vote no.
And thus
And
the
I was
problem
just
with
dumb.
democracy. So our friends are smart people. So smart people who I know to be smart.
Who care about voting.
They
and
voted.
voted.
They voted in a midterm election. They care. And they even did some research ahead of time.
They are educated college graduates, right?
Yep. They're worldly. They've been around the block. They know
have
stuff.
jobs and monies and are smart people.
And despite reading the bill and reaching ahead of time,
literate people,
they voted the wrong way. So New York State had 3 proposals. The 2 they voted right on, pretty much everyone.
well, sort of, right? So
Let's
talk about the second and third ones. 'cause
Okay,
the first
proposal
one
2 is my favorite one.
Yep.
Proposal 2 was, we don't have to print an entire copy of every bill on paper and give it to everyone before we can vote on it.
That one is a good one to say yes on.
Yes.
Obvious reasons.
I read it.
It's basically saying allow the Albany to do some technology because the Constitution currently forbids using technology. So
and I did some research on the bill just to make sure, like, is there anyone smart opposing it?
Mhm.
And one motherfucker is in the state level is actually against the bill and argued that it will be to the detriment of the pulp and paper industry, and that is a huge part of upstate New York. Pretty sure they were referring to their particular district in upstate New York.
Probably.
Luckily, it passed. We can stop killing a whole bunch of trees for literally no reason.
Yep. So that one was fine. The third one was let's basically have a bond, which is a loan.
It's basically borrowing a ton of money.
$2 billion.
Yep.
To buy shit for schools, but specifically to buy for public schools, to buy them fast internets and fancy smart boards and all sorts of technologies that they don't have.
I'm pretty sure they're going to waste this fucking money.
Right, that's the thing. Is like on the one hand, I was like, I should vote no because this is probably some deal where the company that makes the smart boards is like, hey, we want like $2 billion, so just get the taxpayers to take out a loan and pay interest for it and give us the $2 billion, and we'll sell you a bunch of useless garbage technologies to put in your schools that no teacher actually wants and is useless. And I sort of want to say no to that. But then I thought, there's some kid who's going to school and the internet in his school sucks. And even though this horrible companies or whoever contractor is going to make mad corrupt monies on this, at some point there'll be that kid in school and the school finally has somewhat better internet.
Yep.
And that kid will be like, yes.
And honestly, our schools are so bad at this point that I really want to pump some money in just because that'll at least fix a few of the grossest problems.
Yeah, and it's like we'd rather spend $2 billion on this than on something else corrupt.
Yeah, the people who are going to vote against this are like libertarians
like
who
the
don't think they
casino
need schools.
nonsense or whatever.
Yeah.
From last time.
The other reason I was for it is Walt Cuomo's for it, and he can eat a big old dick.
I think that's what he does, in fact. he can and does.
But apparently, a bunch of people, mostly conservatives, were against this bill because one of the people who has a lot of oversight...
They're old. They don't want to pay for school.
No, one of the people who has a lot of oversight over how the what is bought and how it's used is Eric Schmidt from Google.
Oh, how about that?
And those people are all mad because they're arguing that Google shouldn't get to, a big corporation. It'd be like if Microsoft, they're gonna...
It is sort of corrupt. That's what I was saying.
Except Google doesn't really sell products.
Right. Microsoft and Apple actually, Microsoft the most sells those kinds of products. Google doesn't. Google doesn't have anything, like Google doesn't make a product that they could put that money into.
Yeah, Google does not have a horse in the race. Google has a guy betting on the race.
Yep.
Like, Google just needs people people who use tech more in school are going to be better Google employees down the road.
I guess they have Google shortcuts on the computer desktops. I don't know.
But you know what? Eric Schmidt's the kind of person where if he has some oversight, I'm at least confident that through all the bureaucracy that's going to prevent any intelligent thing from being done with this money, a little bit of good might happen.
Yeah, no, it'll be better than, someone who doesn't know anything about technology.
I trust him more than I trust anyone in New York State politics.
I mean, he's not a perfect individual by any means.
No, he's not. But
Look,
what did I say?
Easily Google his list of fuck-ups.
What did I say? I trust him more than anyone in New York State politics.
Yeah. He is a person who, despite being a CEO of one of the largest companies on earth, said, what do you care about privacy if you got nothing to hide?
So, proposal 1.
The one that everyone fucked up.
Listen, the correct vote was no.
The correct vote was no.
Me, Scott, and Emily voted no.
That's right.
Several of our very smart friends voted yes. So I did all my research at the airport waiting for my luggage, and then I voted on the way home.
I did my research by following Zephyr Teachout on Twitter because I figured, hey, she didn't win, but she's probably going to tell everyone else how to vote. And I already did the research that said I should vote for her. So if I'm going to vote for her, I might as well vote however she says to vote. And that'll make my job real easy. And she tweeted many times saying, good God, vote no on 1.
I knew one was bad just by reading it. And the thing is, this is why it bothers me that smart friends got it wrong.
Well, it was intentionally. Remember, we get to vote on it, but we don't get, the fact that it gets on the ballot and what is written there next to it is controlled by the people who are already elected. So you can't trust them to write the correct thing there. They're going to use deceptive language, and they did.
Now, so Emily's logic was basically, because we were talking about the bill, she was like, I read the intent, and it was obviously like stopping gerrymandering.
Mm-hmm.
But then I scrolled down and I read like the actual
The
text
implementation
of it,
did
and I was
not
like, wait a
match the
minute.
intent.
What did she say? She basically said either this is just written very badly, like bad board game rules, or it's actually nefarious.
It is nefarious. There is no question. It was nefarious.
Revising states' redistricting procedure.
Yep.
The purpose of this proposal is to reform the process of establishing new state legislative and congressional district lines that the Constitution requires every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, and it was
We have a process for drawing the districts for the state legislature in New York State.
Yes, the people,
process-
also Congress.
Yes, the existing process is mad rigged and corrupt.
And it's run by the Republican and Democratic parties.
And it's all crazy gerrymandered, and we need to fix that. That is correct. So
bill-
if your intent is to fix that problem, that is a noble intent.
And the abstract of the bill says we are fixing that with an independent or neutral or whatever commission.
That sounds good to
Here's
me.
rule number 1 of legislation. Whatever a bill says, assume it does the opposite unless proven otherwise. Whatever this summary is, it's probably the opposite. So, and the better it sounds, the worse it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically, it replaces the existing system, which is pretty vague and just like the parties sort of equal
So
representation.
keep in mind, this passed, so this horrible thing is going to happen.
Yes. Instead, they'll form a commission. Now, in my research, I discovered that the commission was originally in the legislation called an independent commission.
It is now not an
There was a
independent commission.
lawsuit that was won saying that because the commission would not be independent, they can't lie and say it would be independent in the law.
Yep.
That's fucked up. That there was a lawsuit against the law and it was won and the law still passed.
Yep.
So they were trying to hide what the law did. They failed, and yet they still succeeded in lying about what the law did.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, what it does is it sets up a commission that's half Democrats and half Republicans, and
Shocking.
they get to draw the lines. However, and this is how you know the law is bullshit, if their proposal is not approved by the legislature twice, the legislature can then modify their proposal as they see fit in order to pass one.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning the legislature can do whatever the fuck they want anyway. This commission literally does nothing.
Yep.
Even worse, the original system, you could theoretically...
Right, because, I mean, at that point, from what we've heard so far, you could basically say, well, it basically just adds bureaucracy at worst, right? The legislature is still going to draw the lines in the end anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you vote yes or no. So there has to be some other thing going on that would make voting no really important.
Yep. So the last clause of the new restrictions, well, there are 5 restrictions.
Mm-hmm.
The top 4 are basically already covered by the existing system. Like,
Yep.
don't gerrymander. Even though,
But they do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter.
the 5th one,
But maybe because it actually says that, someone could try to... No.
maintenance of cores of existing districts, of pre-existing political subdivisions, and of communities of interest must be considered. That is not a requirement. Well, now it's a requirement. It wasn't before.
Mm-hmm.
So in the old system, reformers could theoretically say, you know what, fuck it. Let's have a computer and redraw everything randomly.
Mm-hmm.
This prevents that. The existing gerrymandering is the best we can ever get now.
Mm-hmm.
We can never be less gerrymandered than we already are.
It locks it in. So someone can't, like, you know, if this commission and the legislature both, right? Let's say we vote in all new, somehow a miracle happens with the current gerrymandered districts. People in New York State move a whole bunch.
We vote in like all like Green Party.
a
Now
bunch
it's the
of- a
Green
bunch-
Party and the Libertarians.
Right. A bunch of old people die and a bunch of people move and we still have the same districts and we vote in awesome people and they make an awesome commission and that commission draws an awesome, just like crazy grid of awesomeness that is not gerrymandered.
One, they violated the law, so
Right.
their proposal's invalid. And two,
Even if the legislature approves it, we
And-
would need another similar constitutional referendum. So we'd also have to vote yes, no on a thing like this again in order to go back and undo this.
so this bill is bad for 2 reasons. One, it is fake reform intended to deflect attention on gerrymandering. Basically, all the people who voted for this and like proponents of it in the state can now say, look, I back the reform bill to fix gerrymandering. And 2, so it's fake reform. Because it doesn't actually do anything. And 2,
and it's basically when I put on my TV commercial, I'd be like, I tried to go against gerrymandering.
Joey Jojo voted against it because he's pro-gerrymandering.
Yeah.
And 2, it actually entrenches gerrymandering forever.
But pretends that it is fixing it.
So how did our friends get fooled? Because when I read this,
they can't read, or they didn't read carefully.
Because I scrolled down.
It's lawyer text. No one knows how to read it.
I read the actual bill, and at the bottom, where is it? There's the line where I knew it was bullshit 100%. Oh, where I can't find it now. Where's the speaker?
So good at reading.
Here it is. If the Speaker of the Assembly and the temporary President of the Senate belong to different political parties, blah, blah, blah.
And you haven't fallen asleep by the time you've gotten to this line.
Yep. But basically what the line says, I'm trying to find it here.
And that's not the line you skip over because it's so boring.
Yep. It basically says that the legislature... Oh, yeah. Proposed amendment, 60-day deadline, which the court must decide a petition challenging an apportionment plan would provide the legislature with an opportunity to correct any legal problems the court finds with the redistricting plan. Guys, if you can read the rules to a board game, you can read this. Maybe this is why we're doing our panel on learning games at PAX South, probably. Because no one we know reads the rules to board games. We have to explain the rules to them. Apparently no one reads the rules to government, and we have to explain that to them too.
Right, now imagine being an actual representative in a legislature somewhere, on the town, state, whatever level you are.
Now you might say, well, I'll read the bills. Yeah, you won't, because you have to spend 90% of your time fundraising.
Right, not only that, even if you had time to read them, they're all worded like this, only 10 times longer. And you fucked up reading this. How the hell, if you were elected today, how the hell would you read any bill and understand its full consequences if you couldn't even read this tiny referendum thingy?
I think I know how to fix this
correctly.
I think I know how to fix this one problem. I got a crazy idea. This is usually you're the one who's like, I know how to fix this, so I'm pulling a Scott.
I'm gonna pull a rim then. I'm gonna find all the reasons that your shit
you're
crazy
gonna
shit won't
shit
work.
me down.
That's right. I'm gonna go. Pew.
So here's my idea. So you know, in school we study literature.
Mm-hmm.
And we study movies sometimes. Like in high school, like you'll watch a movie and you'll read a book and you'll like write a paper on it. People in school, like high school, should do the same thing for games. Like in English class, someone should have to play like Half-Life 2 and write a paper on it.
Uh-huh.
And
how's that going to help with this situation? And how is that ever going to happen until we're like 90 years old? There'll be enough old people dead for that to happen. And then kids will think it's mad boring. Half-Life 2 will be like fucking Citizen Kane, and they'll be like, what the fuck is this shit? I want to go do my, feelies with the, VR.
All right.
So
to pull a Scott, I now have to escalate. So yes, all that happens. We like kill all the old people with guns or something. So
no, we are the old people. There aren't the old people who are in our way are gone.
So we make it happen, but we also, like in math class or game class, you have to play some tabletop games and like learning the rules.
Tabletop games will still exist. You won't just play them in cyberspace.
Yeah, they're virtual tabletop games. In cyberspace, there's a table.
Sure.
So you got to learn the rules of these games.
Then
you get a quiz.
These laws, and then we'll finally fix gerrymandering, and nobody will care because we're living in cyberspace now, and cyberspace law is all that matters.
There's a culture book about that where the machines are, the AIs, the intelligences, the minds are like, yeah, in our internet, which we call infinite fun space, we have infinite fun all the time.
The best space.
But because the physical world, like something could blow us up back there, we have to at least keep an eye pointing at that to keep an eye on all that shit.
We take turns?
Yeah, basically, that's what they do. So if people had to learn rules to games by reading them, my idea is that the same percentage of those people who learn how to read rules as actually learn math from math class would now be able to parse these laws.
I do not think the percentage would increase anyway.
I think it would increase, but I think it'd be like the 1% to 2% increase.
I mean, if you just improve education in general, I mean that your specific class isn't really helping, right? It's just education in general. I mean, and there was in fact an English class. I think in 10th grade we actually there was an assignment where we had to read and write instructions to things as if you were explaining it to someone who knew absolutely nothing other than the English language.
There was a Science Olympiad event. I don't know if it still exists, where what would happen is they give you an object. And you had
any proper nouns related to the task were unknown. You had to teach those. So it's like there'd be like a list. It'd be like teach someone how to like peel a banana, and write those instructions, but you can't use the following words unless you explain what those words are somehow.
Yeah. I had assignments like that, but because it was taboo, basically, like, here's a list of words you can't use. A thesaurus later. But no, our event was more, you just have to describe a process. So, like, here's an object. Write instructions on how to build that object from those materials.
Yeah, peeling a banana. It's like, all right, there's going to be a yellow object in front of you, shaped, vaguely crescent shaped. That is the banana. The banana is an harder outer coating, which is the peel, protecting the mushy inside part that you can't see yet. On one end of the banana,
I would say,
would be a stick.
Bite it and keep biting it and swallow all the parts that you can actually swallow without choking.
Spit out all the other parts.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my. You know what that is? That's my loop optimized version.
Very good.
So otherwise, I actually voted for almost all Green Party candidates because
I voted for the Green Party person on the governor just to be, obstinate.
Fuck you, Cuomo.
And then
I would have rather let the Republicans burn it down.
Yes.
I would rather the Republican have won than Cuomo.
So I guess people who aren't from New York don't know this story. So Cuomo is basically the only reason he's governor is name recognition because his father was governor.
Yep.
And
name recognition is basically all that matters unless, like, you get your dick out in public.
I bet people probably don't even know that it's a different person than his father or whatever. But anyway, so he's governor, and he was basically having a fight with Republicans. He wanted to do something, and they didn't want to do it. So he said, all right, if you don't do it, I'm going to create this corruption commission that's going to find all your corruptions and get you in trouble.
And that corruption commission, much like the choo-choo bomb in Smash Brothers, came right back at him.
Right. So the corruption commission, was finding stuff out. And then the Republicans eventually like, okay, you win. Stop with the corruption thing, right? We're going to and they compromised, and they got the deal done. So he said, okay, now that the deal's been made, I don't need you anymore, Corruption Commission. But meanwhile, the Corruption Commission was not only investigating the things the Republicans did, they were investigating corrupt things he did.
I want to talk to the people.
And that's why he took that Corruption Commission down.
I want to talk to the people on that commission because those are the Elliot Nesses.
Right. So
even though Elliot Ness was a super dick in real life.
He in fact said at one point publicly, this Corruption Commission can investigate any corruption whatsoever. That's totally cool. And they were investigating him, and that's when he shut him down. So
now, independent of that,
it doesn't really get much more corrupt than that, dude.
Independent of that.
And people voted for this person for governor again.
More people live in New York City, like in our area, than the rest of the state.
That's correct.
But the rest of the state has undue representation due to shenanigans.
Because it's full of old people and gerrymandering.
And because of the way the state constitution is, New York City can't do some things on its own, like minimum wages in the city, rent controls in the city, speed limits in the city.
Even the MTA is a state deal.
Even
I guess
though,
that technically, but I mean, MTA trains go upstate, but still.
So the city
subways don't
need state approval to do really internal things like lower the speed limit because a lot of people are getting hit by cars.
We actually won
Manhattan.
that one.
We did.
Not that it's helping.
Cuomo and the state have fought de Blasio and the city at every turn.
Basically, the interests of the state and the interests of the city are basically 100% opposed. What New York City wants and what New York State wants from New York City are the opposite.
Part of it's because it's way cheaper to lobby the state than the city. So real estate lobbies do all their lobbying at the state level, and then the state prevents rent and land reform in the city.
You go to the state legislature. How many people in the state legislature are from New York City? Right?
How many people even know that
it's not a majority?
New York City's not the capital of New York State. It's
you go
Albany.
around and you convince a bunch of people who are from the sticks to do a certain thing that benefits the sticks and hurts the city. And they're all like, oh, absolutely, I'll do that, of course. Oh, and you gave me money? How awesome is that? Yeah, I'll do that. And then the city doesn't have a majority of representatives in there, so the city can't just, force the state to do whatever it wants. So basically a bunch of people in the sticks to decide what happens in New York City because we're in the same state.
I also, honestly, as much as I hated Cuomo, I voted for the Green because I was pretty sure the Republican wouldn't actually win anyway. And for comptroller, I voted for the Green person because I did some research. They sound like one of us. They were like, just legalize marijuana and everything else too, and just go crazy on everything, like radical, crazy reform.
That's
because
pretty
why
much
not?
what's going on there.
Yeah,
I didn't really vote in the rest of them because
I wrote myself in on everything that was unopposed.
Yeah, basically everything was unopposed. And I'm thinking, right? So there are all these unopposed judges.
Why doesn't one of us like
Right. What does it take to run for judge?
certain number of signatures on a petition? I'm
Right.
pretty
So
sure.
if I ran for judge, could I win? And if I did win, I don't know anything about judging. I would be. It's like,
you know what that means?
if my job was just to judge things, like based on my judgment.
Oh, you're real good at
think-
that, Scott. You are perhaps the most judgmental person I know.
I think I could do a pretty good job, and I think people would want to be defendants in my courtroom. But I don't think that I would be good at. I think every case that came to my court would then get appealed to some other court and fixed because I'd be bad at it, and it would cost the state a lot of money just to have me as judge.
No.
But it's not illegal for me to run for judge despite lack of legal ability. And if I won, I would be the judge. And then what the fuck would happen? Would that be my job now? Do I get paid enough to do that all day? Or like, how do I judge things? Like, I don't even know. Do I have to wear a robe? Can I be like, you know what? My courtroom, no robe. Take that.
You would either be the best or the worst judge that New York has ever had.
I'd be the awesomest judge, good or
There's
bad.
no middle ground with you on that.
But I mean, regardless of if it's me or not, somebody, just imagine anyone who doesn't know how to be a judge being elected judge. How the fuck do you do it? Right? It's not being representative is actually easier than being judge. You don't need to know anything. You just have to vote on stuff, which is, something I feel pretty confident and even a reasonably intelligent person can learn to do. But being a judge is actually a skill-based job. That'd be like, what if I got voted as crane operator and I knew nothing about operating cranes? People would die. What if I got voted as train engineer? Now next day I have to go to the train and make it go. People would not get to work on time if they got there alive.
Yep.
It would be bad.
Or you start optimizing for the wrong things.
And what do you do in places where you can run for sheriff? What if I get voted sheriff and I know nothing about policing?
That could be kind of fun.
I mean, I'm sure I could figure it out eventually, probably easier than judge.
I wonder.
But
I didn't look at the actual numbers, but I should go find, like, how many people voted for that one Elliot whatever who's running completely unopposed.
Yep.
And then we just got to figure out, if we put you up and just ran a purely internet campaign.
No, we could run a real campaign. There's only so small
yeah,
an
but I'm
area
saying
to
we
cover.
run a purely internet campaign because all that
We have
other
to get
shit's
all the
expensive.
Greek people in Astoria to vote for us.
Yeah. You go to every nerd and young person thing. Be like, just lie too. Just be like, I will do everything in my power to legalize marijuana if I'm elected to the position that has no control over that.
Well, I mean, something we could really do is just run in the Democratic primary for judge. And then if you're in the D slot, you're on. That's it.
Yep. I actually am changing I did change my party affiliation because I was unaffiliated.
It takes a whole year.
Yeah, for a long time because fuck the Democrats.
And fuck everyone.
Yeah, but so Democrat primaries are the only actual elections.
It's the
in New
real
York.
election. Your vote counts a lot.
Yep. So yeah, I gotta be in their stupid party. Even though I don't think parties should get the
Party
power
should
they
exist.
do.
Yeah.
They can exist just fine. They shouldn't. The state and the government should not run their primaries for them.
So now here's the thing: if you get elected judge, what kind of judge are you? Am I doing traffic court? Am
I
I
don't
doing
even
family
know.
court? Like, what court am I judging in?
You know what my problem is? I knew about what those positions did in Michigan, and I never looked up the differences between Michigan and New York when I moved here.
I'm glad they were unopposed because then I don't feel bad for not knowing.
Yep, I only do
and voting
research
uneducatedly.
if it could matter. And I considered unopposed all the elections where it was like a Democrat and then like a libertarian. Those libertarians got like 40 votes. Green Party actually for governor got almost like 5% of the vote.
There's a lot of hippies in this state,
Yeah.
especially in the city. They're voting for that shit.
Yeah, my big hope is I want to see Zephyr Teachout bust out and next time there's a big election. I have a feeling she's not going to try to go for governor or anything, though.
No? Why
She's
not?
probably going to go straight to national politics.
I don't know, maybe.
That's the common trajectory is people go for governor or like something like that.
Run for House of Representatives in my district and get rid of this Maloney lady who's not the greatest.
Yeah, she's not the worst. She's just Gennaro.
She's not the greatest either.
Yep. So, yeah, that's politics. See you next week. Talk about PAX.
Live somewhere better.
This This has been Geek Nights with Rim and Scott. Special thanks to DJ Pretzel for the opening music, Kat Lee for web design, and Brando K for the logos.
Be sure to visit our website at frontrowcrew.com for show notes, discussion, news, and more.
Remember, Geek Nights is not one, but 4 different shows. Sci-Tech Mondays, Gaming Tuesdays, Anime Comic Wednesdays, and Indiscriminate Thursdays.
Geeknights is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution 3.0 license. Geeknights is recorded live with no studio and no audience. But unlike those other late shows, it's actually recorded at night.